one-time ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They were 5th coming into this week. They will fall after losing to Northern Illinois today, 16-14. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish laid an egg in their home opener. Unfortunately, a theme that is becoming all too common in the head coaching tenure for Marcus Freeman. He lost to Marshall a couple of seasons ago. He now loses to Northern Illinois, giving the Huskies their first ever win over a top 10 program in school history. Garrett, I've got to turn a light up just a second. So take this and run with it. Notre Dame clearly did not play well. They fell asleep at the wheel, and the Huskies punched them in the mouth.
Yeah, there are some pretty obvious issues, I think, in the pass game for Notre Dame. They just really weren't able to be that effective. And I think Riley Leonard's still a good quarterback, but something was wrong. You might have to just chalk this one up to like a massive letdown spot coming out of that game against A&M. But like, come on, you can't come out of that game and then drop it to NIU. Like, I looked at their schedule just now, so I'm going to read this out real quick. NIU at Purdue, Miami, Ohio, Louisville, Stanford, at Georgia Tech, versus Navy, Florida State, Virginia, Army, and USC. Out of all those games, I might have picked them to lose to NIU last. Like that was probably the last game on this schedule I expect them to lose. And I don't necessarily think this is indicative of Notre Dame as a team. I think that Notre Dame is still a really good team, still a really good defense, and I think that they'll be a lot better going forward. But man, how do you explain this outside of just fell asleep at the wheel, thought they were going to coast? Maybe looking ahead to, something later on their schedule, maybe just thought that they had it made because they won a big game. I really don't know what to say about this other than that. Like, they still played pretty well on defense. You give up 16, that's not a massive number, but you're doing it against Northern Illinois, who I expected them to compete in the MAC. I picked them to be one of my championship contenders in the MAC, but it's still the MAC. And, as much as we like MAC football and we'll all be watching MAC football through the season, I don't think any of us would expect Notre Dame to fall to a MAC team, 99 times out of 100. It just so happened that this was that 1 out of 100 times where Northern Illinois found a way to do it. But you got to give them credit. Like, they've played gutsy football, went for it a couple times, like the really, gutsy football from Northern Illinois. And I'm super proud of them. This was the first time they beat a ranked top 10 ranked team in their program's history. So that's massive for them. The coach clearly emotional at the end. He played there. So, him getting to have that moment of taking his team that he played for, he put the jersey on for, getting to, go and win this huge game for his program. That's awesome for him. And so I don't want this to be, overshadowed. Northern Illinois may not factor into the scene of college football for the rest of this season, but today they're on top of the world. They beat Notre Dame and put maybe a massive damper on their season.
Well, so for Northern Illinois, you mentioned Thomas Hammock, well-coached game, very clean game from Northern Illinois. They forced mistakes out of Riley Leonard that we, quite honestly, I think expected to see last week at Texas A&M.
Right.
Riley Leonard is not a prototypical quarterback. He's not going to throw the ball deep down the field. He's not someone who's going to spread it out and be able to beat you normally through the air. He relies on his athleticism. Felt like Northern Illinois took that away today. They got pressure on the quarterback. And because of that now, Trey, Notre Dame's left in a situation where they may still run the table. They may still go 11-1, but without a conference championship, without maybe a real quality win the rest of the way. We'll see what USC is like, but Florida State has dropped off as a quality win. That is not going to weigh much in the committee's eyes. So with this loss to Northern Illinois, are you worried about Notre Dame's chances to make the 12-team playoff given the competition in the Big Ten and the SEC?
Yeah, their chances went down significantly, right? Like, I don't think anyone can sit here and say that they are in a good place when it comes to the college football playoff after this loss. And what's really unfortunate for them is the control is now out of their hands, right? They can go 11-1, they can control what they can control, but now they have to be the biggest cheerleaders for Texas A&M, Florida State, and USC in the entire world, right? Because if your quality wins are a 4 or 5 loss Texas A&M, a Florida State team that might not make a bowl, like their over-under sitting right now at 5.5 live, and a USC team that goes, even if they only lose 3 games total, including one to you, is that a playoff resume? Is that going to get you in over a 10-2 Ole Miss or a Alabama that might have slipped up a couple of times, or just you name the team, a Big 12 championship loser that it hadn't lost a game or it only lost one game. So you have to win these types of games to remove that margin of error. And they had every opportunity to win this game. Like every single time that they were coming down the field in the second half, it's like, all right, here it is. They'll punch it in. They'll kick a field goal. They'll get where they need to go. Even on the last drive, it seemed like there was going to be an opportunity to get a little bit closer and kick a game-winning field goal. But, man, they have no one to blame but themselves. They have nowhere to look but right in the mirror to come to a solution about this. It's really just dumbfounding how they can come out and be so focused. I sat here on this show a week ago and said, man, I'm so impressed with how Marcus Freeman had his team focused. No one was looking up in the stands. They had one procedural penalty all night, no turnovers, just hats off to that. And then you turn around and just like a completely different team showed up in South Bend today for the home opener. Like it happens quite a bit in college football, but every single time it happens on this scale, week after, like back-to-back weeks, it never ceases to amaze me. Yeah, how Jekyll and Hyde a team can be.
Well, and unfortunately, this Jekyll and Hyde dance, it's becoming somewhat common in the Marcus Freeman era, right? Like I led this off with, he loses some of these games. He's quickly becoming a coach who actually can win the big game when it feels like everything in the world is against them. But then as soon as the spotlight is off of them, as soon as it's not a top 25 opponent, suddenly Notre Dame is prone to these slip-ups. And, it wasn't a great start to his coaching career in year one. They lose to Marshall. They always seem to have these moments throughout his coaching tenure. And I'll tell you what, it's unfortunate, but Freeman's press conferences after a win are inspiring. It seems like they rally the team and the fan base together. Afterwards, it seems, after losses, I should say, it seems like he says the wrong thing. So today, everyone was grasping on to the straw that he said, well, that we didn't play like we needed to. This isn't, or what did he say? This is becoming all too common. And it's like, yeah, that's the issue, Marcus. That's your job.
That's your fault. Yeah. If it's that common, here's the thing. Like, if it's that common of an occurrence, like, that's not a player situation. That's not a we just didn't game plan for it situation. Like, that's a culture problem. That's a game prep problem. That's a practice problem. That's all on the head coach. You can't keep doing that.
It's concerning. It's concerning for sure. So we'll see. Faison, what's his last name? One of their big wide receivers was out. He sprained his ankle against Texas A&M last week, so they lost one of their downfield weapons. They really had a hard time stopping the run, especially in the first half against Ontario Brown. They've got to get that cleaned up, but I'm concerned.
Coverage lapses too. Yeah. Like that was the big thing for me, is like that vaunted secondary. They did a great job in College Station last week, just losing guys and missing tackles. And the big touchdown in the first half was a missed tackle, misplayed ball.
Yeah. Gracious him. How about that?